All right. I am not one to waste time, so I know you're taking time out of your day to see this. Thank you all so much for joining, and I hope to provide a lot of valuable info here for you today. You should be able to see my screen on your screen, and my colleagues are going to be posting some blog links as I refer to them. We go through the presentation, so definitely take a look in the chat. At those. And if you have any questions, please just shoot those in the chat, and I will do my best to periodically check in throughout the presentation and answer those. But worst case, if I'm locked in and miss some, I'm sure my team will be happy to answer the questions for you. We'll get your questions answered, and then we'll also have a section at the end to just do kind of free asking questions session. So let's get this thing started. Blogging boot camp. And before we get started, we've been doing these webinars for a couple months now, and I'm fortunate to work with an incredible team here at webFEAT Complete. And coming up next, we have email marketing with Carly, one of our newer team members. She's absolutely crushing it, and I think she's going to have a lot of fantastic info. If anyone got the reminder for this webinar, she was the one that developed that, and that'll actually be referenced in the presentation. And then my colleague Jake is going to talk a little bit about Google Ads as well a couple weeks after that. Going to be a really great presentation. And where you registered for the webinar, we actually switched the links after the presentations to a YouTube link. So if you have to jump out early and miss part of the webinar, you want to share it with someone, that'll all be available on our YouTube channel for you to check out if need be. So, I'm the CMO here at webFEAT Complete, and really I started as an SEO analyst, and I work primarily with the SEO department here, social media content, which includes blogging, and we're constantly working to get more certifications just to make sure that we're always on top of things, ahead of the curve compared to competitors or any other digital marketers working on competitor accounts for our clients. And really, we just want to continue to learn and with that gather insights that we can bring to businesses. So we're constantly working on Google certifications, HubSpot marketing certifications, and we'll continue to do that. Today, we are going to talk about blogging. We're going to give an overview of blogging, talk about some misconceptions there that are commonly known, around Blogger. Two approaches that we commonly see with blogging. One of them's good, one of them's bad. So we'll talk about the repercussions of the bad and the benefits of the good. Knowing your target audience and goals. Blog topic research, generating those topics can sometimes be the hardest part. And then once you get that topic, getting started is probably the next hardest part. So, just going to give some tips on how you can do some research and what we do to really deep dive and get some blog topic ideas, and then really get a strong body of content within those posts. Readability and headings within the blog post we'll talk about. And then once a blog post is written, you got to amplify it. So we'll talk about amplification, and at the end throw in some SEO related tips that can also help to get you some exposure in search engines along with that amplification. And like I said, we'll finish it off with some questions. All right, so blogging overview. There's blogging and there's bloggers, and I guess they are kind of the same in some way. I'm sure we've all, wanted that late night snack or a dessert where we go online and we search for that easy chocolate chip cookie recipe. There's food bloggers, travel bloggers like that, and really the reason that you find those articles are because they're writing really high quality content, and it ends up giving us a great recipe to make. And then in turn, they're getting a bunch of traffic so they can put ads on there and make some money. So it's a win all around. But we commonly get the misconception where we bring up the prospect of blogging to a client, and I think they have the idea that, oh, I'm not a blogger. Maybe we're working with a manufacturing company, and it's hard to see, why would a blog provide any value to me? And really, we'll get deep into that, but there's lots of ways really for every industry where blogging can provide value. it gives you fresh content. That's been a big thing with Google's algorithm. If you wrote a great post and someone else wrote a great post, and your post is was posted yesterday, and theirs was posted 2 years ago, if your content's just as good, if not better, you're probably going to be preferred by Google. So, it gives you fresh content. You're constantly active. You're talking about things that basically showcase your expertise. And we'll get into a little bit of Google Eat expertise is one of the items in there. So we'll talk about that. And really, even if you're not blogging, there's also alternatives that we'll discuss where you can break out pages to create specific landing pages. So really, a blogging or content management strategy needs to be built into your digital marketing strategy, SEO strategy, if you want to truly be successful. And it usually ends up helping out other efforts, such as paid ad campaigns. It can make your landing page more relevant, which can make your ads cheaper, things like that. So really need a content marketing strategy if you want to be successful online and get your brand ranking on that first page. So we usually see two approaches with blogging, and the first is quantity is greater than quality, and that just simply is not what we want to do. A lot of times we'll find a company, if we're doing an audit on their website, and we'll see that maybe they have a blog or a news section of some sort, and they just post very short blogs, sometimes maybe commentary where they just comment on somebody else's article and then link out to it, maybe post some events. Just not the best strategy there. And over time, you build up a lot of blogs potentially on your site that creates competing content and can really work against you. And like I said, we commonly see this with manufacturing companies. And this strategy doesn't follow the Google Eat expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness guidelines. We'll dive into each of these in a second. The second and better strategy is focusing on quality over quantity. And I think that you'll notice, you probably notice when you go to search for something and you pull up a page that the items on the first page that you're clicking on are pretty comprehensive. So as far as blogs go, you're going to find high quality, unique blog posts that has very thorough, beneficial information for readers. And over time, you start to build up a lot of topics that you're covering, really just diving deep on very particular things that people care about. That gives you a better opportunity and less competition for ranking. So follows Eat guidelines, and we see this a lot. This strategy works and is often seen with e-commerce websites, service industries, but really can range. So the first, quantity, where quantity is greater than quality, really not a good blogging strategy. There's some repercussions with those. So I have a couple examples here. The first one, provides a short bit of content on something that's relatively specific. So not a bad topic by any means, provides good information, but this site also has other content on car accidents, personal injury law associated with car accidents that's short like this. And it really doesn't provide any sources. It doesn't show any credibility really, which, you go to the site, you can tell they're a credible company, but Google's looking for certain indicators that you follow those EAT guidelines and are very credible, trustworthy, and an expert in the field. And when you write a post like this, where it's only a paragraph or two, and there's not really any internal or external links, it's hard for them to justify ranking you on the first page. So, and then on top of that, if you have those other posts, you're creating internal competition. So if Google sees you have 5 car accident injury attorney pages, they're going to struggle to understand which one they should position first, and it ultimately makes you work against yourself. And then another example is in a manufacturing blog. It was postponed because of COVID, but they were supposed to go to an event in Cleveland. They wrote basically something that was pulled from the event site and then linked out to it. It's good to have these, but over time, if you're not managing them, you start to rank for those event phrases, and then it's lingering on your site past the date. And Google sees that as thin, not relevant content, at least after the event's over. And that can also work against you as well. So, and it lowers something called CTR, which should be shared here, I believe, soon in the chat, along with the Google Eat post that we did as well. A couple links coming through here in a second. But basically, click-through rate is the amount of clicks you get for the amount of times you appear. So clicks over appearances in search. And if Google sees that's really low when they're testing, putting you on that first page, they're going to think that your content isn't resonating with users, and that works against you. So this strategy just simply isn't really effective. So you're probably wondering, what can I do to have an effective strategy? And that gets us back to the quality being greater than quantity as a blogging strategy. So like I said, you do a search and you see some really great articles out there. And if anybody has looked at anything, related to digital marketing, there's a guy named Neil Patel. Backlinko is actually on here as well. And these people write outstanding blog posts. So we'll go to this one. I'll show it to you on the screen here. But you'll be able to see really quickly, he's going to have a pop-up in a second here. But he's got this guide. You can download the guide. He breaks it down by chapter, and you can actually click down to certain chapters. But as you can see, I mean, this is as detailed as it gets. This probably took a long time to read. And then it gets down here and people are just commenting. You could read through the comments. And Google appreciates those comments too, because they're seeing that people are engaging with the content. And then this has been a successful post for webFEAT Complete that we had, where we kind of dove in to ads express versus expert mode. Got some headings up here, which we'll talk about. Really just went in depth and had a target, and it paid off for us. So to kind of elaborate on this, basically, you got to have a target and you have to benefit that target. So, in the case of the Google Ads Express versus Expert, we were able to kind of cross of targeting a prospective client or any clients using Google Ads, but at the same time, we were able to help, maybe that beginner digital marketer that is in Google Ads Express, doesn't really know how to get out of it or what the benefits and all the features of the other posts or of expert mode could be. So we're kind of satisfying a need. And basically, because we satisfied that need, and just like Backlinko is doing with their link building posts, people are spending time on the page, and it's clearly the content is resonating and benefiting people. And Google sees that with engagement metrics that we're constantly looking at. So over time, you'll basically, I'll use webFEAT as an example again. You build up a lot of topical authority. So what I mean by that is, we're a digital marketing company. We do social media, SEO, content, hosting, web design. We start blogging about that and then go into specific topics. We're going to build up rankings for search phrases over time that are all related. And Google's going to see this giant network of phrases growing and see that we're constantly posting. And basically that's going to indicate to them, and engagement metrics are going to indicate to them that we're providing valuable content. And over time, as that builds up, your post can actually start to rank faster. We've seen that with a digital marketing authority we look up to, Moz. They can post one of their Whiteboard Friday, just like a little educational post they do every Friday, and it can rank pretty much immediately. They did a study on it, just because Google knows they're always putting out great content that generates user engagement and comments. So basically, diving in depth and taking the time to work on a really great blog that provides helpful information, solves a problem, is what's going to do the best for your business and help you drive qualified traffic. So, I'll dive a little bit into the EAT guidelines here: expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So you can see in that link that Jake shared, I saw he did share it now. Basically, Google did an update and it was focused on content. And this liaison for Google indicated that it was focused on the same guidelines they released last summer around EAT. And they just have these questions, and it basically just long story short, it's just saying you got to write content that proves you're an expert, people can trust you, and you're an authority in your space. And when you do that and you really dive deep, you're going to be able to provide content that other people can't. And it's going to stand out. It's going to be better than the other content out there. People might share it, people might comment, and that's going to benefit your rankings. So a good example of this would be commonly, you know, like I said, in the service industries or e-commerce, maybe you're a company that makes Wi-Fi routers, and you are trying to draw in people. Well, maybe one of the reasons that you can look at, and we'll dive into how you can find what people are wondering about, but in this space, maybe you're wondering, you know, I got this older router. It seems like I up my internet speed, but it doesn't seem any faster. What are some ways I can improve my internet speed? So you go into Google, you do a search for how, you know, ways to improve my internet speed, and you get an article from this router company that gives you 5 things you can check on or tweak. And then the last resort item, which probably happens a lot with people, is, oh, you know, your router might not be able to support the Mbps of your that you're paying for through your internet provider, and you're going to need to get a new one. Here's a link to ours, and then, you know, on that page it shows it's compatible with whatever internet. You know, the Mbps gives you all the details you need. You got a pretty good shot at converting and driving in quality traffic, providing a solution for people. Sometimes maybe they'll get to a solution before getting your router, but if in time they come across the same problem, they're going to remember your article, especially if you're doing other advertising and staying top of mind. I'm going to check the chat. Okay, we're all good. So yeah, again, just making high quality content, solving problems, answering questions, going above and beyond with your research to know that maybe you'll answer a primary question, but as a result of that, another question could come up in the mind of the reader. And if you get in front of that and know that it's coming and answer that in your post as well, it adds another level to it. So there's things that you can do to really get in depth with your blog posts. And a big part of that, as mentioned, was knowing your target audience and goals. So if you have a goal for your post, which you should, or a target audience, you're going to start to narrow that competition. And that's really what a lot of digital marketing is about, is narrowing the target, doing the research and knowing what people are searching, making sure you're targeting it. And that's going to give you a better chance at writing some content that's going to resonate with your readers. So in part with that, you also get it's probably going to be easier for you to write. You're going to be able to have a more consistent writing style. If you're referencing, you know, you or your business, things like that, marketing directors, etc. You have a better shot at resonating with them. And if the goal is to generate a conversion, you know, a phone call, request for quote, if you're an e-commerce business making a sale, if you strategically link in your post, you're going to have a better opportunity to get those people to convert and kind of narrow your funnel for them. So I have a couple examples here with some, you know, it's just really easy to reference the webFEAT blogs in part with this. Jake just shared these, but so for example, you know, sometimes we might have like this, you know, not even the example here, but sales client focus. We have the Google update in May, and we wrote a post about it and wanted our clients to know that, hey, this happened. Majority of everyone is good because we already knew this was coming. Content was important. Some people, you know, may have had a drop off, but we know why. We're already addressing it. And in that post, we addressed it to clients. But then there's also the other side where our blog talks to digital marketers, and we want to provide educational resources to digital marketers starting up, or anybody that's, you know, maybe struggling with an ads campaign or SEO campaign, and they're just kind of at a dead end. They need some fresh ideas. That helps us drive some traffic as well. So we have the digital marketer focus, where if I shared that with a prospect or a client, it might not be of interest to them, and it shouldn't be, because that wasn't the goal or the target audience we were writing to. So make sure, you know, you're keeping in mind, if you're trying to generate a blog topic, you're trying to write a great blog, define who you're writing to first, and set a goal for it. So, you know, for example, if you are let's say you're a restaurant, and you're a trendy taco restaurant in downtown Cincinnati, you're probably not gonna be gearing your posts towards, like let's say, like 70 years old plus. I mean, I'm sure people love tacos that are older, of course, but that focus of that business and that restaurant is probably geared towards young people, getting them to post on Instagram and do a hashtag, things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Just making sure that you really define that target audience and who you're writing to, and set a goal. And maybe the goal at the end of that blog post for that taco restaurant is to get them to go to Open Table and make a reservation, or reach out about a private party for the holiday season, something like that. And if you kind of merge those together, strategically link, place those calls to action, you're going to have a good chance at increasing, basically getting that ranking, and from there increasing reservations or bookings for the holiday season. So just one example of many that could be really helpful. And along with this, when you have that defined audience and set of goals, you're going to improve key metrics, because if you did the research, wrote a great blog, you're going to, for example, click-through rate, another blog that's been shared, it's going to go up. You're going to appear for the right phrases. And when Google tests putting you on the first or second page, and you start to, they can look at that click-through rate and clicks versus appearances. If they see that for every, 2-3 appearances, you're getting a click, they're going to know that this is a good piece of content, and people want to see it. And then they'll see that people are spending time on the page, maybe going to other pages, submitting a form, and that'll just starts to snowball effect. There we go. So let's get into some research. Blog topic research, you got to start there, generating topics. One way that everyone could do this is by submitting their website to Google Search Console. And Google Search Console, basically what it does is it shows you all the phrases that you're ranking for. Well, one thing that it does, and another blog will be shared here on Search Console about all the tools and features within it. It's going to show you all the phrases that you're ranking for. It'll show you your click-through rate, the appearances you're getting, the clicks you're getting, and you can start to narrow down and basically see questions. So I used, thank you, Jake. I used right here, an HVAC company, and I scrolled through their Search Console, and I started to see some questions being asked. How often should HVAC be serviced? And there's also the ones that say you can kind of narrow it down once you get this idea. So I started to see these questions. You could search serviced, and I'll get into that in the next slide here. But anyway, you start to see questions, you start to see concerns, and these are things that you can address if you don't have content on your site. Maybe Google thought you had some content on your site about this because you're an HVAC company, but if you didn't, you're probably just ranking for it on the third, fourth page, not getting any clicks. But if you see this and make a piece of content specifically for it, you'll start to rank. Google will test you out. You'll start to get that high click-through rate. You got a lot of opportunity to bring people in for these services and then guide them to reaching out to you. So that's one way to generate topics. Then we also have a tool called SEMrush that we use. It's an SEO software. They got this great tool called the Keyword Gap tool, which Jake will share a blog on this as well. Keyword Gap tool basically lets you look at your website and then I think 1 to 3 other domains. So, let's say you're that HVAC company and you want to put in 3 of your top competitors. You run that report and it'll show you all of the phrases that these competitors are ranking for that you're not. And sometimes, you might find that people are doing some really spammy stuff, maybe blogging on completely irrelevant things to their business, trying to be clickbaity. That might work temporarily, but it's probably going to backfire. But you will find some good topics that you can write about. And sometimes you'll also find posts or rankings where you're both ranking, you and your competitor, but your competitor's outranking you. So those two things basically give you the opportunity to enhance some content on your site or add content to your site that can give you a competitive edge against your competitor. So super powerful tool we love to use. And we also do that with backlinks on SEO campaigns. So something really great that can provide a lot of value to your business. And then last but not least, you can touch on those current relevant events, but don't make it just a short paragraph or a couple sentences. Make it thorough, and really dive into it. Otherwise, it's not going to be too valuable for you. And we also have Google Trends. So Google Trends, pretty cool website. The accuracy of the data isn't 100%, but you should be cross-referencing no matter what with search results, doing research there, which we'll get into in a second. But one section that's really cool, I think I searched web design here, and it gave me all of the basically rising trending related topics. So apparently web design is popular with general contractors right now. People are looking for best practices. People are curious about domain names in part with building a website. And you can really, sorry about that. You can use that to your benefit and kind of enhance your post if you touch on those related topics. Say you write a web design post and you want to dive into or use an example, maybe you could use a contractor as an example. And that little things like that add up. We try to do all the little things at webFEAT Complete along with the advanced strategies, and over time that really builds up and can give you an edge. So once you have a topic, you got to do research on what to basically put into your post. So again, you can use Google Search Console. So with that HVAC example, again, saw the how often should HVAC be serviced question. So I took a word from that, service, that I thought would apply, and filtered it in Google Search Console, and it gives me all the variants. So these ones are all pretty much the same. But what this is going to do is it's going to give you verbiage. It might give you additional questions. It might say, how often should my HVAC be serviced? How often should my furnace be serviced? How often should my AC be serviced? All these variants. And then sometimes you'll even find additional searches in part with those searches. So those are really great. And then the next place to look and kind of start to build up some ideas for your posts is the search results. So go into the search results and search, how often should my HVAC be serviced? And you could run through the AC, the furnace, all that stuff, and explore the search results in depth to basically see what's going on there, and also see, what are people writing about? How comprehensive are these articles? Maybe sometimes there might not even be any competition and you could just get something up and it'll be easy for you to rank. Rare these days, but definitely possible. So you've probably noticed all these features in the search results. People also ask section. There might be a box up at the top of the search results page that pulls something off of a page and basically answers a question before you even have to explore further. So you should look at all that, and then also related searches. So this is where you can start to get into those additional questions folks realize they have after they start to learn more and more. So Google might have seen that someone searched, how often should my HVAC be serviced? And then, they followed that up by, how much is this going to cost me? And they did that search. So Google shows that in the related searches, and you could kind of add sections to your post of, answer the question of how often your HVAC should be serviced. You could break down the post into AC, furnace, whole system, maybe, geothermal or something, all kinds of crazy technology these days with also those Nest thermostats, things like that. So you could really get in depth, break it down on everything, and then follow it up by, have a little section on cost. And even if you can't give the cost, you could say, it really depends on every system. Insert a call to action to request a quote, fill out a form, or you could link to a form, or you could link to a contact page that shows contact information. And that's really going to give you the bones of a great blog post. And one other item there to think about is, and we're really utilizing this in this presentation right now, is utilize customer feedback to create resources and enhance content. So there's a lot of times that, and I'm sure this happens in all of your industries as well, you work with your customers and you get the same questions frequently. And, you could put those on an FAQ page as an option too. But I like to make blog posts that very specifically target those questions because it might help someone else out there. And then it has all the ranking benefits as well. But, a good example is that post on the algorithm update and Google Eat. And then sometimes we send out reports and we have a conversion section, and sometimes customers aren't clear on what a conversion is. So, it might be a form download. It might be a form submission. Maybe it's a sale or some kind of transaction on your e-commerce website. So I made a post about conversions. What is a conversion? And now I can just send that to the client, and they're going to start clicking on that link in their email. That's going to build up ranking value, shows that we're providing good quality content, shows our credibility a little bit. So you can utilize customer feedback as well to help you generate topic ideas and really fill in your blog post and what you're going to be writing about. And really, just to kind of put the process into, just kind of visualize it a little bit, I like to do the research, find my topic, and then I found that I was getting stuck. It's just hard sometimes whether you have a topic or not to get going on your post. And I found that if I find my topic and then I outline my post and then do some research, fill in little tidbits through, once I'm done with that, I basically just add the in-depth research and put everything into, good sentences, make the grammar good, send it to the team for some edits, run that back, add some images, and before you know it, you got a live blog post. And you can really push out some great blog posts in a day or two if you just take the time to really, really lock in on it, and the benefits are enormous sometimes. So hopefully that's a helpful tip. And to visualize that, this example right here. So when I was, starting this post, I probably, I was writing, I think about increasing e-commerce, software as a service e-commerce revenue. And so I was outlining it, and I knew that, exposure is good, free trials are good in generating those, but what matters most, the bottom line, right? So kind of putting that as the topic and then breaking down sections on that of like, okay, we should talk about conversion rate. That's definitely applicable. User experience. So I basically, to have the bones of this post, I just had these headings, and then I filled it in with little pieces of information, and then I put it all together in the end. And it comes together easier than you'd think, and then you start to get in a rhythm, and you'll be pumping out blog posts faster than you would have ever expected yourself to. And another thing, headings are really important. So you can even go back to the recipe post, which those really annoy me because those people, they put the headings and they put all this information, and you can tell that they're sucking you in, so you spend more time on the page and you see more ads, and ultimately they can make more money. But hey, more power to them. But you should be able to basically write a post that someone can read, quote unquote read, just by looking at the headings. So, you've probably looked for something and found a post that's like 12 ways or 12 ways to do this or that. And you could literally look at the post and it might have these big headings that say 1, this, details, 2, this, details. And that's you should set up your posts like that because it does make people read. It enhances engagement metrics, and that ultimately will help your ranking. So think of those posts that you see that you like and you enjoy reading that have helped you when you're writing a blog. And if you consider that in your audience when you're writing a blog for someone in particular trying to accomplish a goal, it'll help you develop something really strong. And on the technical side of things with SEO, we kind of take that to another level. So there's each heading you can kind of set up in the code and note to, bots and algorithms. This is the primary heading. This is the secondary heading or subheading. And then there might be subheadings below that. Really the first two are most important. They're just an H1 and an H2 tag. So your blog title should be set up to be an H1. And a lot of times when we build websites, we set it up to be that way. And then when we're writing posts, will go in and manually select. Like you can go in WordPress and an option in the drop down is like paragraph, heading 1, heading 2. We'll select heading 2 for the, maybe I'll do a title, intro, first subheading, and then maybe that subheading breaks down into specific sections like this one does. So this would be an H2, this would be an H3, and then, maybe the concluding paragraph, I put a title there and it's an H4, but those H3s and H4s don't matter as much. And that's something on the technical side that you shouldn't be worrying about. Your digital marketing company should be doing that for you. And it's just another little thing that can go a long way. And then just consider readability, which I think Jake's going to be sharing another one if he is not already. If you're in WordPress, thanks Jake, they're going to give you a readability score. They have a focus keyword if you have the plugin Yoast, which if there's any digital marketers in here right now, probably have. Maybe even if you're not, it's just a really common plugin that helps make it easier to do SEO. And readability is important. There's actually readability, and we get into it in that blog post. There was like a test developed a long time ago that kind of measured the readability, and Yoast has incorporated that into their software. So they'll give you like a sad smiley face if you just put a block of text, it'll probably be a red sad smiley face. But if you're following the guidelines I'm kind of giving in this presentation, you'll get a green smiley face, and your post should be very readable. You can enhance that with, make sure you got your headings. Are you bolding and italicizing things? Are you putting different kinds of media that people can engage with, images, videos, maybe embedded from YouTube, things like that. And that'll go a long way. And you can take that even further with anchor links, which we saw in that backlinko example earlier. So if he had the chapters, and those were anchor links. If you clicked a certain chapter, it kicked you down to that chapter. It anchors you down. And if you do that, you basically give people the opportunity to, they don't have to sift through things. They can get right to what they're looking for. Sometimes that's not the best for engagement metrics, but Google has plenty of other indicators that will ultimately showcase, in his case, comments, that article was insane. He'll end up ranking. But you want to make sure it's easy to read. You got good headings to break everything out, and anything you want to stand out, you're bolding, italicizing, and you'll end up with a really readable post, especially if you throw some media in there. All right, so I'm sorry, I guess this might actually go closer to an hour. It looks like I'm at 50 minutes now. Well, I had that starting a little early, so looking good on time. Let me make sure nobody's asked a question in here. All good. Thank you for sharing all those, Jake. All right, so you've written a great blog post. It's probably going to take some time to rank, especially if you're just getting started with it. Doing some SEO, running ads. You're not always going to run ads to your blog post, but maybe on Facebook, boosting a post. That's Justin's ballpark. I'll leave that to you, Justin. Recent webinar of Justin's is also, like I said, we put them all on our YouTube page when we're done. He just talked about social media and simplifying it, so definitely go check that out. But basically, you got to amplify these blog posts, and because it takes time, even with SEO, for a post to rank, you want to start getting it in front of people, getting them to share it, getting them to engage with your post, and that will help you to amplify the post, get it ranking faster, and provide more value for whatever you're trying to accomplish, and then also just help your rankings as a whole, your site's ranking potential as a whole. So, you can also use email marketing to promote this. You can start to generate backlinks. You can seek out certain, if you're solving a certain problem, you could type the question into Google, just as we were, I was talking about with search result research. And you might find some forums or some question and answer sections where people are asking about this, and maybe nobody's provided a solution yet. So you can go in and say, hey, I wrote this blog post and I think it might be valuable, help you solve your problem. Boom, all of a sudden you got a backlink and you're engaging with people. And that can go a long way. And then there's also sharing with influencers. So as you can see here, we have our webFEAT weekly that we've got a really sensitive mouse apparently. Got webFEAT weekly. We just started up. Definitely sign up for that if you haven't already. I don't know if we could provide a link for that. If you can, that'd be awesome. We've been posting it on LinkedIn a lot. If not, but you can. First thing on this one was following up from last week's blog, SEO for podcasts. So you can present it to people in that way. Here's where we shared a post on Facebook, link to the site and got it going. And then you can, this particular example of engaging with influencers wasn't necessarily for a blog, but it kind of showcases, you can get on Twitter and you can follow people that you respect in your field. And certain industries not as much, and you might have to go to like LinkedIn instead, let's say, if you're maybe a manufacturer. But I'm going to a conference in November. It was postponed, should have been sooner. That's why it says January on there. But I found out some people I really look up to and respect are going to be at this conference. So I tweeted about it. So I was excited to meet them. I ended up getting a like from each one of them. And then because they liked it, a bunch of other people on Twitter saw that and they liked it. Other people going to the conference too. And one of the guys even reached out to me and said, hey, please come up and talk to me. So in the future, I would like to reach out to those people and get some feedback on my blogs, try to get better and learn from their wisdom that they have. And, they got twice as much experience as me. These people I reference have been in the field since it started. I've been doing this for about 7-8 years now. So, good bit of experience, but there's always somebody that you can find as a mentor or someone that just has a good bit of knowledge, a little bit more than you, that can help you out. So you can take advantage of that with your blog posts. A lot of times influencers in your space might be looking for data or asking a question, information. You can respond to them, whether it be on LinkedIn, Twitter, and build that relationship. And in time, you can share your blog posts with them. You could just engage with them on your brand account, and those things are going to build up and help you out a lot. Thank you, Carly. Carly just shared the newsletter link if anyone wants to join on that. Just a once a week thing. Try to provide some educational information in there. Promise we're not going to spam you like hotels.com. All right. So some SEO related tips. Number one, and this kind of goes in part with research. We'll look down here at this. So this is a search result and you have the meta information here. So this is a meta title, which I actually think Google changed it just because I've gone to it so many times. I have something more specific that also says click-through rate entered, and then a description that should be captivating, kind of talk about what the post is about and draw people in. And if you make sure that your meta information includes verbiage that you're seeing from your research, it's going to resonate with people more, and people are going to think it's the right link to click on and find their information. So you have to make sure that that meta information is properly set up on your blog posts. And then you also want to establish some internal linking that can kind of boost the value of posts you've previously done. In time, you can go back and add links as you write new posts that are relevant. And this will help people start to explore information on your site, helps engagement metrics, helps them find information, solve maybe more than one problem. And that'll have a lot of residual benefits. And in part with that, regularly republishing your posts can be really helpful too. So like I said earlier in the presentation, content freshness is becoming more and more important. So if you got an old post versus a new post, they're both really good. The new post is probably going to be preferred. So if you have a great post, you can let that ride out for a little bit, but over time, you're probably going to learn something new that applies to the post. Or like I said, maybe you wrote another post that is relevant that you can link to. And if you go back in and you update those posts and republish them, reshare and amplify them, it can kind of sustain their rankings. Otherwise, you might see them start to taper off over time. So going back, once you make a blog, your job isn't done. You got to try to go back in, manage that content, update it. And if it becomes irrelevant, you can get into strategies like taking the post down and redirecting it to the most relevant page and passing any value that page did have. So really, really important stuff. SEO can take blogs a lot further than just writing blogs, just to write blogs. Google My Business, we have an example here. Maybe I think a lot of people are involved in Google My Business, whether they're working with a digital marketing company or not, just your business listing up there in Google. And Google's rolled out a lot of stuff on there. They say that it doesn't help your rankings, but I tend to think that it has to have some kind of positive indication to Google if you're utilizing it. And if somebody does a branded search for your company and you have all this updated current information, they can see you're constantly posting on there, it's going to help you out. And also, it's just going to provide, another place of amplification for your post. So something you definitely want to do. You could go on your personal social platforms. Another good example from today, it looks like we got about 20, 21 people in here right now. We had, I think, 25 signups this morning. At the end of yesterday, I went in and posted on my social platforms, and then we reshared it on the webFEAT account, and I also posted on my LinkedIn this morning, and we had signups up to 40 people. So, that's just one, that's not a blog post example necessarily, but using your personal social platforms to build a network, people start to like that. And then, all their connections might be able to see it. And that's, again, Justin's ballpark, but something to consider that can really help you amplify your post. And kind of touch on the similar content, but you got to be really careful with your topics. You cannot write about the same thing multiple times. So let's see, what's a good example here? If you are, let's go back to that router example. If you're a company that makes routers and you have, let's just use the same exact example, ways to make your internet faster. If you start writing posts down the line, maybe you started with 5 ways to make your internet faster, and then you also write a post a year later because you forgot about that one, or just thought it would be good to write another one that's how to make your internet fast. And then you do another one that's similar 6 months later, something like that. Google is going to look at those posts and they're going to start to get confused because they all hit on relatively the same topic, and they're not going to know which one is the best or what is preferred. They might have some indication, but basically they're going to see 3 pages targeting the same thing, and they're not going to know which one is the strongest, and it's going to dilute the ranking value of each page. So make sure you're narrowly targeted. If you don't think a post is good enough to republish, you can go back to that strategy of taking it down and redirecting it to a new post or the most relevant post. And you just gotta pay extra attention to that. And you gotta consider not only blogs, but if you're a service provider, you have to consider your service pages as well. So if you are a instrumentation company, for industrial facilities, let's say, and you have a page on a specific type of instrumentation, you don't want to write a blog on that instrumentation too, unless it's a very specific and detailed dive into that particular piece of instrumentation. And there's other things to consider, internal linking there. But a better option would be to look at general content marketing and to break out, maybe you have a basic instrumentation page with all these different pieces of instrumentation on there. Instead of making blogs on them, you could make sub pages of that instrumentation page. So maybe it's, domain.com/instrumentation. You could break that out further to, /instrumentation/ heat sensor or something like that. And then you'll start to develop a site hierarchy. You've got a specific landing page for that heat sensor page, or basically that target. And because that's so narrowly targeted, if people are doing searches around that, Google will see that that's definitely the page people should be going to. And if you have all the information on there that people would care about regarding that topic and go in depth on it, you're going to have a good chance of driving traffic. So something to consider there. All right. I know that was kind of an info bomb. Does anyone have any questions or need any additional examples? Anything at all? I'm happy to help. Does it make sense to maintain past content online? Isn't it counterproductive? or are we obliged to do so to meet Google logics? It definitely makes sense to maintain past content and is not counterproductive. You kind of are, if you really want to, let's say you wrote a great piece of content in the past and it's been ranking really well for you, but you decide you're never going to touch it again. What you're going to see is that those results are eventually going to taper off. Your rankings are going to start to drop off because people are writing newer pieces of content that maybe touch on newer pieces of information. So they have something more to offer than your post or piece of content. And then they'll be preferred. Whereas if you're going back in, let's say even every 6 months to a year, and you're updating that post, you're going to be able to do some more research, provide that additional content, and you already have some ranking value under you. So Google would probably prefer their algorithm and bots, even though they're not really lives, they would prefer to make their lives easier by taking a piece of content they already know is good, seeing that, oh, this was republished and has new information now to offer people. They'll prefer that. And even if you don't have a blog and you just have regular web pages, you want to keep those up to date and always be addressing potential, prospect concerns or buyer concerns, anything that would make them hesitate to make a purchase or fill out a form or call you. You want to address that in your content, and anytime that comes up in a conversation, updating your content can do that, and it'll eventually become a habit. So long story long, yes, it's definitely makes sense to update your past content. Are there any other questions out there? My pleasure. I'll stay on for 5 minutes or so, just in case someone has a question come to mind. Like I said, you can always go to our YouTube. We'll be posting that, and you can find the links. We'll have those updated probably by end of day tomorrow at the latest, but more likely today. And you can watch the webinar or share it with anyone. We'll quickly touch on just, our suite of digital marketing services. We really pride ourselves on doing it all in one place. So we'll build you a website, we'll host it, and we'll market it on the internet. Can't really find many places that do that. A lot of people will say they offer hosting, but they'll go through GoDaddy, and then that's just a nightmare. Everything with webFEAT, you'll talk directly to someone at all times, and you don't have to go through all those hoops where our hosting is much more advanced and secure than GoDaddy's. And then we also provide, the specific services, PPC, reputation management, content creation, all that good stuff. And wanted to also show you, there's the link. Let me see if I can actually copy that in the chat. Maybe not. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing that, Carly, the link to the webinar registration page, that's where you'll be able to find future signups, past webinar videos that you can watch, and maybe we can get a YouTube link in there too. Sorry, I'm asking for a lot of links here. Thank you, Carly. And if you want to follow us on social media, we're all over the place. We share those blogs. Anytime some kind of new information comes out, we try to share all that information for you and keep you in the loop. And ultimately, we want to give our customers and anyone watching this now, hopefully we gave you some good tips, and these could be applied to your business or your clients. And we'll continue to do that into the foreseeable future. And thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Definitely come back and see one of our future webinars. Share this one with your friends, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. And like I said, I'll stay on for a bit just in case anyone has any questions. Thank you so much. Thank you. My pleasure, Lena. Thank you for joining. Have a great day. Andrew Bad, I see you in there too. Thank you for joining, man. Appreciate you. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and sign off one more time. You got all the links in here. You know, check out our YouTube channel. You can even find it just by going on YouTube and searching webFEAT Complete. We got these webinars coming up pretty much every 2 weeks for the foreseeable future. Definitely check those out. Check out our blog. Got a lot of helpful information on there, and we look forward to continuing to provide this information. And yeah, keep it rolling. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you, man. And thank you to Chris and Danielle for peeking in on it too. All right, everybody. Have a great day.